Now we have some pretty interesting rumors regarding the upcoming PS5 console. These rumors that are currently floating around suggest the PS5 may be indeed backwards compatible. If you go ahead and look at this current generation with the PS4 and the Xbox One, you will know the Xbox One is semi backwards compatible with 360 games. That's because it has to emulate them, and not every game can be handled on the Xbox One just because the architecture is a little bit different, so they have to do each game on a game-to-game basis. That's why you don't see every single 360 game running on the Xbox One, and that's why when you boot up an Xbox 360 game on the Xbox One, it has to go into emulation, and you can clearly see it's doing emulation when it comes to the Xbox One playing Xbox 360 games. And then if you go over to the PS4, you guys know the PS4 doesn't even have backwards compatibility at all. That is not because Sony is lazy or anything like that. That is because the architecture in the PS4 is completely different than what they had on the PS3. So if they were to put games on the PS4 that were PS3 games, it would just take them way too much development time, and I don't think Sony really wants to go through all that. I don't think it might be profitable. It would just wouldn't really make all that much sense, and it would just be too time consuming, too costly, and things like that. So that's why you don't see PS3 games on the PS4. It's not like they can't do it. They can do it. It's just not practical, and it really doesn't make all that much sense. If it was more on the lines of it being the same architecture as PS4, then of course you can just play your game right away, and it would be a very good situation. Now let's go to the PS5. Apparently the PS5 it's supposed to be backwards compatible. Apparently the processor in the PS5, I think it's supposed to be an AMD Ryzen chip, a Zen 2 generation chip for the PS5. Don't know how true those rumors are, but if those rumors are correct, I don't see why it wouldn't be able to play PS4 games, and I think this could be very true. I think these rumors out here suggesting the PS4 being backwards compatible, or the PS5 being backwards compatible with PS4 games is definitely a very true thing. And now there's even more rumors suggesting scrap that. It's not just going to be backwards compatible with the PS4, it's actually going to be backwards compatible with every PlayStation ever made. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and including 5 games. If that was the case, that would be phenomenal, and that would be absolutely amazing if it played every PlayStation game ever made, and you just plopped in a disc and it worked. Now, if they actually did something like that, how much would a console actually cost if it played all the previous generations of PlayStation games? I think we might be looking at quite an expensive console. I can see this console maybe costing upwards of $450, maybe $500 for it. I know the limit for gamers is really around $500. Even at $500 is kind of a hard sell for a console. I get it. Not a lot of people are happy to pay $500 when it comes to a game console, because usually game consoles are their main primary goal is to play games, so you're not getting a lot of value out of your money when you're talking about spending just raw $500 just for a machine that strictly mostly plays games. Sure, on these boxes you get things like an internet browser, Netflix, YouTube, you get all these different apps, but the main thing you're buying these for is gaming. So I don't know if they would want to sell this at $500, but considering if it did come out and it played all the previous generation PlayStations, they might make that argument and say, well, it's playing all the rest of the PlayStation games. It can play every game ever existed, so we're going to have to charge $500. Maybe people will be on board with that because they know they can get all the previous generation games on one box. That would be something actually very cool, but I don't think that's going to happen. Most likely what's going to happen is it's going to be playing PS4 games, and that's what's going to happen. And that's actually a good thing. It'll actually help boost the sales of the system. And even if people don't really use backwards compatibility, I don't know what the percentage of people now using backwards compatibility with the Xbox One with Xbox 360 games is, but even if people don't use it, it's still kind of something to have on a system, and it's kind of enticing people to buy the system whether they use it or not. So it would be good for Sony if they actually made the PS5 backwards compatible with the PS4. So I think that would be a very good move for Sony. Something I didn't really touch on is the fact that if you know anything about the Xbox One playing Xbox 360 games, some games just don't play on the Xbox 360. You pop it in and it just plays the game. Some games are actually when you pop them in, they actually do get upscaled to things like 1080p and 4K resolutions, and some of them just look super clean when you play them on the Xbox One from the Xbox 360. I can see that actually being the case with the upcoming PS5 to play backwards compatible games, whether it's PS4 games or the whole entire library of PlayStation games. I can see them doing something like that. Then that might even entice people altogether, and that would absolutely be awesome if you just plopped in a game like a PS4 game, or even maybe a PS1 game, PS2 game, PS3 game. You popped it in and you got like way better resolution, maybe 4K upscaling. Even if it was checkerboard upscaling, it would be amazing. And then you got better frame rates as well in these games and things like that. That would actually be a pretty big deal if a lot of these games were going to be more cleaner, better resolutions, frame rate, and all that jazz. That would absolutely be awesome. But honestly, I do think this rumor is real, floating around the internet, that the PS5 is going to be backwards compatible in some way. I'm just not sure if it's going to be PS4 only or all the PlayStations like rumors say. I think that's a little far stretch, and I don't think that's all too likely. But honestly, this is going to be a very big deal for the PS5 to be backwards compatible, because as you guys know, the PS4 right now is just not backwards compatible with PS3 games. So it would be kind of cool, especially if you're trying to buy the system day one, because as you guys know, when systems comes out, even for maybe the first year of its life cycle, you don't get a lot of games for the system to sort of have a box already ready for when games comes out, and you can play all your old games. Would just be flat out fantastic. Then you wouldn't be all too worried if there's a drought maybe the first year when games aren't really coming out all that well. Or maybe, as you guys know, with some of these systems, when the console first comes out, you usually get a lot of like ports or games that are on like the last generation of consoles over to them, so they're kind of like a cross situation when it comes to games. So games maybe the first couple years of a system's life cycle can be kind of iffy and sketchy, and who knows what the case may be. But to have backwards compatibility would pretty much solve your situation. And on top of that, gamers would know they wouldn't need to keep their old box plugged in all the time because they have backwards compatibility. That's one thing I kind of don't like with consoles. You have to have so many different consoles plugged in, just because if you want to play an old generation of a game, you have to go to that console, and you have sometimes too many consoles plugged in. So it would be nice to have one box sitting there to have all the games on it. That's why I kind of hope this rumor is real, that we get all the PlayStation generations being able to be played on one PlayStation. That would just be awesome, and honestly, it would solve the problem having so many different boxes hooked up and things like that. But what do you guys think of this rumor that the PS5 is going to be backwards compatible? I think it's just something very interesting. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.